Evening, everybody. What is up? Wow. I mean, it has really been wild, the amount of pro-beard talk that there's been around for the last week. It's like the exact opposite of the time we changed coffees one Sunday. Or the time I tucked my shirt in one Easter Sunday. I mean, those were dark times. Those were probably the worst 2 Sundays we've ever had, not counting the time that the fire truck showed up. Anybody, who was there for that? Oh, yeah, there you go. Been a long time. It was absolutely my fault. It was 100% my fault. I'm the one that turned on the heater, and the heaters had not been run yet. It was 100% my fault. Well, I was the ultimate cause of it. It was not my fault. Anyways, that's something I'm learning with my counselor. I don't know what that means. I do know what it means. Anyway, okay, let me pray. God, thank you so much for these awesome people. And I thank you for the people who couldn't make it. And I just thank you for our church, God, what you've called us to. And I just pray about the future. God, I just know in my own heart, and we'll talk about here in a little bit, God, I've just been stuck. I've been stuck in the past. I've just been stuck in my own anxiety and sense of loss, God. And I just pray that, God, you would just move us forward and really just help us carve out the, God, both the present and the future you have for us as a church, God. And we love you, and it's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen. Yeah, so since I've been back, which is just a little bit over a week, not only there's been a ton of pro-beard comments, but even still, even just a few minutes ago, like, are you sure you're not going to quit? I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. There's not going to be any point. So if there's any of you that are high stress, high anxiety, then you're just waiting for some bomb to drop of any kind over the course of the time that we're together. You can feel relaxed. There are no bombs of any nature coming. I did tell some people in the back that I was quitting. But it was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. Because I'm tired of being asked. Anyways, so August 1st, which was Friday, August 1st? Yep. That was the very first Sunday, 15 years ago, that our family was here when we were just, I guess a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a negative 1-year-old or so. I mean, negative 2. Anyways, and it's been 15 years now, and we spent July kind of in a sabbatical, the kind of thing that's supposed to happen every 5 years, but 5 years before 2025 was 2020. And so it's been a while, and these things are really just kind of designed not just simply for the recharging of the batteries, which it was really good for that. Heidi and I, we had a really good time. We were just together, just the two of us in Mexico for a little bit. We were, as a family, together in Montana for a little bit, brought back a hat and a beard. That's really all I brought back. Turn it back to beard talk again. But it's also designed not just simply for rest and recharging, but it just took a week of just kind of really focused thinking and praying, and there's some very specific things that I was praying and asking God for to happen during that time, and we had some really good conversations. I read a lot of books, did a lot of praying, just did a lot of thinking during that week, and it's just really, I think it really started a process of some things that God is just kind of rooting out in me, just kind of some personal stuff for me, that I think obviously has some really significant implications, I think, for kind of where the church has been and where it's going. Because, some of you have been around for the entirety of that 15 years. I'll always remember in the days leading up to my very first Sunday here, I met Kim Blanchette, and she was going to plan a potluck. I was going to say buffet, but buffet is not the right word. It's a potluck. A potluck there after the church in the really small building that we were over there on Sunbridge, and she had this graph paper, and she had drawn out every part of the building to scale, and had drawn out where the tables were going to go and what the flow was going to be and what all the things were, and she was just showing me all of this, and I was like, this is amazing. And then when she left, I looked at Heidi's like, I'm not sure who that was, but I need her to be my best friend. And joyfully, 15 years later, I would say that she and Brendan are some of our very best friends here, so it was a mission accomplished. And some of you have been around for all of that 15 years. Some of you, I know, we talk about this from time to time. You came around the time I did, so you don't predate me. You weren't here exactly from the beginning, but you were there pretty close. And some of you have been around for a while. Some of you fairly new. But for those of you who have been around for a while, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, that in the last 15 years, there have been quite a few phases that I feel like we have gone through as a church. And different things, different seasons that we have seen, just some really incredible ups, some really incredible challenges that we have experienced over the last 15 years. And I think I've just spent a lot of time processing through a lot of that. And one of the things that came to my mind during the sabbatical were these, I was trying to remember exactly what they were, and it took me a little bit, but there were these three very simple words. When I was spending time with the elder board, the people on the elders at the time, and the staff that were there at the time, kind of like to just kind of really boil down what it is that I feel like that God has called us to be. There were three very simple words that I used, that God has called us to be relational, He's called us to be relevant, and I apologize, this does not start with our outwardly focused. And I said, I think if we can do these three very, very simple things, be a relational church, be a relevant church, and be an outwardly focused church, that we're going to see God do some really, really cool things over the course of our time here. And based on the way our worship was at the time and what I knew about my teaching style and what I knew about this community, I made some pretty bold predictions about how I believed how quickly our church would grow and how quickly I think that we would have a fairly significant college student presence. And those predictions turned out to be true. I mean, we were growing at a rate every month, every year. I mean, just very crazy growth numbers for those first few years. I mean, there was a time here where there was, without a doubt, we were the preeminent church in all of Fayetteville for college students, and we were the fastest growing church anywhere around here. And it was a very wild ride. It was very difficult to keep up with in a lot of ways, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's just kind of happened where people have asked me, they've seen in one way or the other this Braveheart replica sword that I have, and they've asked, what is that? Where did it come from? And I had always said, and people knew this, that if I was ever pastor of a church that on a particular Sunday there were 1,000 people there that day, I was going to buy a Braveheart sword. It was going to be a gift. And it just turned out that the staff knew that. They bought that sword and had held on to it for a while until one fateful, I think it was maybe our first Easter Sunday here in this building with college students and everyone, kids, youth, everybody. We had over 1,000 people here in the 3 services that day. And there was this moment where it just seemed like that there wasn't anything that was going to hold us back. That who knew what the limit was of how big and how influential and how fast growing that this church could be. And as I look back on myself during that season, I would say, there was something that I saw that I would say to our leaders from time to time. I would say, I think that our church right now, I would describe us as a gangly teenager who's just had a growth spurt. And you look at it from a distance, and as you look at it from a distance, you think, that is a full-grown man. And then the closer it gets to you and the more it kind of gangly walks like this, and then it comes up to you and it goes, hello, Mr. Lofton. You're like, that's not a man. That is a boy who happens to look like a man. And I remember saying this then. I was like, we've got a lot of things going for us. We have a lot of big numbers, but there are a lot of structural issues that we have that we're going to have to deal with if we are going to even maintain this size and influence, much less move past it. And at the same time, I feel like in my heart, I would say I lost sight of the ball a little bit. I lost sight of the vision. I think the vision I think there was so much time and energy that was being used just in my own mind and just in the things that it was taking me to kind of manage what was going on every week. It was just trying to, how can we manage all of this growth? And I became very focused on that to the point to where I think I really lost sight of who we were supposed to be. But there was just so much momentum going and so many cool things happening. I don't think that particular aspect of it caught up with us for a little while. But there are some things that happened, and right now I would say in my mind mentally where it's 2014, moving towards 2015, somewhere in there. And several things happened, I would say, between 2014, 2015, all the way up to including the spring of 2020. There were a lot of things that happened that just kind of took us from Charlie has a Braveheart sword with 1,000 people, and it just seems like the sky's the limit, to just a lot of crazy things have happened that have kind of led us to where we are right now. Some of those things were some very heartbreaking things for me, and some of these things have even happened even more recently than that, where there are leaders and friends and people on staff that you just kind of imagine yourself, and I imagined myself, some of these people are the people that I'm going to grow old with, right? These are some of the people that forever we're going to be doing this together. And over the course of years, and again, I'm not naive enough to be shocked by it, even though I am sensitive enough to be sad by it. There were just several different times where it just became apparent for one reason or another. There was just kind of a loss of friendship or a loss of vision or a loss of connection, and had to part ways. Sometimes my initiative, sometimes theirs, with some very important people. And every time that happens, even if it's, quote, the right thing to do, there's always going to be just a little bit of momentum loss. But I think for me personally, there was just a huge kind of, I don't know the word to describe it, just a huge stumbling block for me, just a real discouragement. I think it just, I have in the past really just kind of taken kind of all kind of relational conflicts. I've taken them really to heart, really deeply, really personally. And when you have the job that I have, I mean, I can in one talk use some illustrations. Man, here's some crazy things people have said to me in the past, and here's some of these wacky emails I've gotten over the years, and I can craft the story in such a way where it's, man, that was hilarious what he just said. Like, you would laugh. I would tell the story, you would laugh. And at the same time, there are some of these emails that I've gotten. I still see some of these people, and I'm not going to say anything out loud. I mean, maybe you could talk Heidi into it. And there's some things that I think, and I say to my wife, hey, look who that is, and then I'll say something. And and it's very clear that my heart has not healed from a lot of things. And so I think all of these, they just kind of felt like little cuts. And they just kind of, and there was a season there, I would say, between 2015 and 2020, where it just felt to me like, okay, something would happen, and I would tell myself, okay, these things happen, regroup, move forward, recast, keep going. And it just seemed like in just enough regular intervals that just by the time I feel like we've got our feet underneath us again, something else would happen. And part of this was the conspiratorial brain that I have, and part of it was just, it was just what was happening. And at the same time, all of this is going on, the three largest megachurches in the entire state of Arkansas, Fellowship Bible Northwest Arkansas, New Life Church, and Cross Church, all three, the three largest churches in the state, planted campuses within a couple of miles from where we are. And, you can say this isn't a business, but when you own the small grocery store and the small shop, Target and Walmart moves into your city, it has an impact. And those things were having an impact at the same time that all these challenges. And so there came this point over the course of that 5 years where there was kind of almost like a grieving of something for me. of just like it seemed like we were on this track of being this regional, really large, influential church, that seemed to be where God was leading us. And then over the course of just a series of things, it was gone. And I think I've realized, just in the reflection since then, just kind of what's happened, I do think there was just a lot of unhealth that was going on in my heart and mind. I think it became very personal to me, like I like something I wanted to achieve. Like I was becoming the stereotypes in my heart that people talk about churches, pastors that are really kind of obsessed with numbers. I really was trying, I thought, to keep myself distanced from that, but I think at the same time, I think I was really just starting to align my self-esteem with particular number sets. And it was a challenge, and as I was trying to move past that, I feel like maybe what has happened since then is like I've worked so hard to kind of let that ambition kind of die and be like, I really want to believe that whatever God wants for this church is what is best for this church. I'm trying to move that direction, but at the same time, I think all I really knew how to do was, well, I'm just going to let whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And really kind of move into just kind of this more fatalistic view of, well, I mean, if God wanted the church to grow, it could grow. And I unintentionally over the course of some time kind of moved from this just kind of hyper-focused mission, grow, get bigger, get better, gotta do, and just quickly just kind of jumped into another extreme altogether. And then somewhere in all of that, a pandemic happened that just kind of upended everything about the way church functions, at least for 6 months, really for another year after that. And I would say, I mean, it's not weird to say that 5 years later, whatever all of that was has remade our society in the way that we make decisions. And it has been difficult, not just for me, but for pastors everywhere, to kind of adjust to the new reality. And at the same time, I would say the most difficult staff, elder leadership transition that we've experienced over the last 15 years, at least for me personally, has just very recently happened. And so it has just kind of led me to this really weird place, just kind of personally. Forget as a leader of staff or as a large group communicator, but just me as a person. It has been a really, really difficult season for me. And again, there's no bomb coming here. I'm just trying to spend some time just kind of walking you through the history of just kind of my heart about all of this. And I think that what has really kind of happened to me, I have this kind of internal battle that has kind of been going on inside of me where I've just kind of been filled with a lot of disappointment, a lot of discouragement. And it has felt to me, because maybe I just didn't necessarily have the full skills that I needed. I didn't feel like I was able to heal quickly enough from what felt like a continued kind of continued woundedness. Like these things would just kind of keep happening. And I didn't feel like by the time it was like one wound would scar over, something would happen again. It's kind of how it was feeling. And I was just battling a lot of this. And I guess I should use a present perfect progressive tense. I have been spending time with different counselors over the last several years and just kind of helping me just kind of think all that through and just kind of what all of this has said about me and just kind of things, you know. I mean, it's kind of wild, you know, the questions that they can ask and the places they can get you and how you just realize that there were just really there's some things that were a part of me that you know, where this sensitivity that I have, my own particular brand of anxiety or whatever. I mean, like you can see it in these stories for me that happened when I was 7, and just some different things that have just kind of come out. And so some of these things have been particularly helpful. But I think I discovered, and I remember talking to Heidi about this on the front end of the sabbatical this year, about, just really kind of asking, hey, what are you hoping is going to happen, right? And I think in the process of asking and having that question asked and answering it, and then just spending some time over the last few weeks, I really just feel like one of the things that has really happened to me is I feel like I've unintentionally, as a leader of this congregation, slipped into the mode of too often that we do church just to do church. Well, it's Sunday. Of course, we're going to have church, and just slipped into this thing that my values speak out against. When I teach, I speak out against it, but just this idea of it just becoming something that we do and losing a real sense of mission and purpose. And it's not that it's not all still there, and it's not that there aren't parts of it that just kind of pop out from time to time, but just in my own heart, the real sense of commitment to, I know this is what God has called us to be. And if we are faithful to do and be who God has called us to be, we cannot control. There are certain things that we can't control. But if we are who we believe that God has called us to be, we should expect to see God do incredible things. And there's a statement, and the guy who said it, I won't call him out. Something that he said to me, it was maybe a year ago, maybe less. He was just kind of talking to me about the church, and he said, and the guy has a very business kind of thought. He was like, based on the product that we have, I don't understand why we aren't significantly more successful than what we are. Again, just kind of thinking in terms of people being drawn here. And it's something that just has kind of stuck with me over the course of the last, I don't know how long it's been, 8 to 10 months. And just kind of really how that just kind of applies, just kind of what has kind of happened to my heart, my vision, my drive. And then as I think about that, there are obviously natural implications that are going to happen. Like if I'm in a certain place, that means my staff's going to be in a certain place. It means other leadership teams are going to be in that place. And it's going to all kind of trickle down to where maybe we all are not, we're I don't have to say maybe, I take it back, where we're not all particularly clear on who it is that God has called us to be and what our particular role in that is, which is why I want to go back to those initial 3 words: relational, relevant, and outwardly focused. I believe that those are 3 very simple things, that we can be a church that values people over programs, people over systems, and that just at its simplest level, we are kind to one another, and we are kind and welcoming to people who come to this church. And I don't think that at any point in any of our worst moments in the last 15 years, we've ever been not that. There have been times where we have been less focused on that than we should be. But even as recently as yesterday, during the first service, we had a couple and 2 singles that were there for the first time, and I got to meet them right back there in our new little First Steps table that we're doing back there. And by the time I talked to this one particular couple, several other people had already talked to them for a decent amount of time. And she just kept saying over and over again, I cannot believe how friendly this church is. And just how many people have not only just taken the time to introduce themselves to us, but to want to have a conversation with us. And the Sunday before, 8 days ago, there was a couple that was here that talked to one couple for a little while. They brought them to me. They talked to me for a really, really long time. I was like, hey, let me introduce you to somebody more your age, because you've only talked to some of the older people, and you're not near as old as me. It gets. You guys can tell me this later. You guys tell me this later. And when I say things like, You're practically my kid's age. Like, does that make me sound old? Does it make you feel weird? Because it's true. Some of you, we're getting to that point where a lot of you, you're my kid's age, right? And so I introduced them to somebody else, a couple who was more their age, and they stayed and talked to them for a really long time. And I feel that here. I feel that. Relevant. Again, I could give us different grades over the last 15 years, but I would say, by and large, that the idea that the things that we talk about on a Sunday are not just theoretical, are not just kind of things that's information for information's sake, but the things that we talk about on a Sunday have the potential for kind of real application throughout the week. I think we do a pretty good job of that. I think of those three very simple ideas, I think the one that I have, then ultimately we have kind of dropped the ball on, is that third one. An outward focus. Do we recognize that we exist, at least in part, and maybe I would suggest in large part, for people who do not currently belong here? That our primary mission that God has given us is an outward focused mission. And much of our inward focused mission is an equipping mission to help us then be who God has called us to be to the people who are not a part of this community yet. And I think we've just lost it. And I think that, again, that's in part of some things that have happened to me. And I think that is a natural consequence of what has happened to all of us, whether we are church people or not, just our community and our society as a whole in a post-COVID world. Sometimes I think it is difficult to recover from we've gone into crisis, there's a pandemic, I've got to look in, I got to get in, I have to protect. And I think there have been some subtle and not so subtle ways in which we have lost a heart and a passion for, I hope that there are people out there who do not know Jesus, who are disconnected from any sort of Christian faith community. I hope God will bring them here, and that we can, by words and deeds, show to them, tell them about the love of Jesus Christ. And that just becomes part of who we are. At a time when on any particular given Sunday, there would be 200 to 400 college students that would come on a particular Sunday, or there was just a constant influx of visitors, and there's so many new people all the time, and things are growing so fast. Even the people who have been here for a while, you don't know if any. You're just assuming everybody around you is new. When that's happening, it's easy to do that. It's easy to have that focus. Of course, I'm thinking about people who are new to this community. That's all I see around me all the time. And we can have that sort of focus. But it is one of those things, the momentum of being a church that is actively drawing people in. Once that momentum is lost, it is difficult to restart. And one of the things that I feel like that I have struggled with over the last few years at different times like this is to, how do you get that? And I feel like we've had a handful of false starts on this kind of in my own mind as far as objectives, kind of, sermon series or, staff meetings or whatever to kind of try to get that momentum going. I think there have been some false starts in that. And I think, again, some of these false starts have been because there have just continued to be internal challenges that we have faced as a church. And again, just in my own dysfunction, those sorts of internal challenges, when I face them, they kill my own momentum. And then it takes me a minute to get back. And so I think I spent a decent portion of this sabbatical coming back to this thought that I have was birthed out of that conversation with that guy that I was telling you about, some things in sabbatical and just some things in general. I believe that the church that God has created right here, the way that we do church, the way that we approach people, the way that we think about ministry, the way that we approach culture, the way that we strike balances in lots of different sorts of difficult areas. I believe that this community, our country, the world, is clamoring for a church like the church that we have. I believe that we meet a significant need in our community, even in the presence of the 3 largest megachurches in all of the state of Arkansas. Even in the presence of all of that, there is something that we do, and there's a way that we approach life and people and a relationship with Jesus Christ that I believe the world is clamoring for. And the way that I describe it in a lot of different ways. Maybe you've heard me talk about it on Sunday. My staff, you can take a little nap right now if you want to. You've heard me say this more times than you can even probably remember. But there are churches out there that are really good at telling you the truth about things. But they do it in such an unkind way that the people who desperately need to hear that truth won't hear it because they can't feel welcomed there. And there are churches that can be incredibly welcoming, but part of their welcoming is they won't tell you the hard truth when you need to hear it. And one of the things that we have done in a lot of different areas is feel like we don't have to pick camps. And we don't have to, just because we believe something to be true, doesn't mean we have to be a jerk about it. And just because we're going to be trying to be really kind and outward facing and really visitor friendly, doesn't mean that we can't communicate the truths that people need to understand in order to really have a relationship with God and then to grow and develop into a healthy relationship with God. I've used different phrases for it, but for lack of a better one of the ones that I use a lot is kind of there's a third way. We're not trying to be in the middle of a church. We don't want to be quite as mean as them, and we don't want to be quite as scared as them. We're not trying to be moderate. We're trying to be something very different. A truth that with kindness and compassion will tell you what you need to hear. Will go beyond what you want to hear and to go deeper than that into what you need to hear. And the story of the woman at the well that we talked about yesterday, for those of you who were here, I think it is a significant part of that. It's a significant illustration of that, of just a kindness, a compassion, going out of his way to love her, going out of his way to meet her, going out of his way to draw her in with kindness, with empathy, with love, with humility, and at the same time, making sure the issues that needed to be addressed were being addressed, telling her the truth about the things that she needed to hear in order for her life to really change. I believe that that is who we are, and I believe that every week, every month, in some of those areas, we're becoming better and better at that. And I sit in on all the meetings, whether it be with the elders, with the staff, whoever, and we're constantly facing different challenges from different societal questions, from different sorts of people with different sorts of issues who will work their way into our church. And we are constantly asking our question, how can we be this? How can we be that in this area? How can we love people well and still be committed to the truth that God has called us? I believe that we are on the cutting edge of thinking in that way, and I am a full believer that if the church is going to survive, not the Grove Church, but capital C Church, if the church is going to survive in the next 100 years or so in this society, it is going to be because we as a collective church figured this thing out. How in a world that is full of anger and divisiveness, where there seems to be these two choices, a truthless kindness or a kindless truth, how can we figure out how to bring both of these things together? How can we bring truth and love and kindness? How can we bring these things together to really deeply impact this community, this country, this world for Jesus Christ. And I believe, again, there are not a lot of books out there. There's not a lot of thinking going on out there. Most of us, we're just, again, trying to do the things we do. We're just trying to survive in a constantly chaotic and changing world. But I believe the way that we are thinking about it, the way that we are approaching people, and I agree with what my friend said, which is, based on the way that we do church, I don't understand why this is not significantly more attractive to the people in our community. And I think about that. It should be, because I believe that what we are offering and what we are giving is exactly what this community needs. And I believe that is what a significant portion of this community wants. Now, again, we exist in a place where there are a lot of different options for church, that there are certain groups of people. You meet a certain profile and you move to this community, you are going to find one of three great large churches where there's going to be a lot of people like you, that people like that are going to go to. And I mean no ill will towards any of them. But even if you put all of that out there on any particular given Sunday, especially when the students are here, I think the number is somewhere between 8 to 10% of the city of Fayetteville, forget Springdale for now, just Fayetteville, 8 to 10% will be at a church on any particular given Sunday. Right? You think, oh, this is an incredibly churched place. If you mean by buildings, then yes. If you mean by there are some churches that are large, then yes. But as our community continues to grow, we are losing out on countless people who are completely disconnected from faith, completely disconnected from a community of Christ. And I believe we are positioned to bring a unique perspective and approach that can draw people in who are not going to be reached by other faith communities. Again, all of which I fully support, know the staff, and love them. And so as I think about all of this, if we're going to just kind of get back to those three ideas, do those three ideas, continuing to kind of also be this third way church. This is what we're going to do. We're going to be relational, we're going to be relevant, we're going to be outwardly focused, and when it comes to these kind of theological and cultural traps, we're going to figure out a different way to do it. And then there's who we are right now, and again, there's the question of what is the gap between what we are and the kind of impact that we could have. I've been thinking about this a lot. And I've said this to a handful of different people. Unfortunately, in the timing of all of this, most of my staff was out of town last week. And so we have not had a staff meeting since I've been back. And so this is fresh for everybody all at the same time. Maybe some people have heard me rant about this in a side meeting somewhere. But there's kind of three significant pieces to any real church. There is what happens on a Sunday morning, your biggest and most open front door. 99% of the people that find your church are going to find you on a Sunday morning first. It is your front door. It is the place where new people are going to come, and it is also the one time in a week where we have at least the potential to all be together. How that happens for your kids, for your youth, for the people here in this room, how that functions is huge. That has to be great. And then there is the community aspect of it. And with the community aspect, we think both parts. The small group aspect and the outward-focused serving of our church. How is that going? And then the third one is, what are the systems, behind-the-scenes systems, that have to be doing well in order for these things to be operating well? You can be great conceptually in these things, but if you don't have the underlying administrative systems to pull them off well, if you can't create and maintain a budget, then it doesn't really matter. You're going to come to church one Sunday and the locks will have changed, right? And the lights won't work, right? There's just certain things like that. There are just a lot of logistics. And so as I think about these three things, this is kind of where my mind goes a lot just because of the nature of the routine of my life. I spend a lot of time thinking here about Sundays and around community especially around the small group piece, the discipleship piece. Are we growing as individuals? Are we growing in community? I've asked Mark, and we've talked about this with just a slight tweak to his job description, where he is just going to be giving almost all of his attention here to make sure that we are growing, we are being discipled, that we are growing in our spiritual knowledge and understanding of who Jesus is, and that we are gathering in life-giving communities with each other. He's going to be giving a lot of focus and attention on that. And I believe that this is where ultimately what's going to come of this is going to be one of the best years we've ever had. We're going to break out of some of these slumps of scheduling and all of these things and the chaos, and we're going to thrive there this year. And then this other one, the systems one. This is the one that is always going to be the challenge for any organization that is led by not just someone like me, but someone that is exactly me. Me. It's always going to be a challenge. It is always going to be a thing where there is going to need to be significant support from other places. And I feel like with some of our leadership teams, our elders, and our trustees specifically, I believe that we are reorienting those teams in such a way and bringing on some more help administratively in our staff team. I believe that we are in the position to where, since I am not treading water, we are moving forward with clarity about who it is that God has called us to be. I believe that we have a lot of the systems and people in a lot of the right places to help create the systems and strengthen the systems that we need in order to just be an organizational church. And I think if we can have a great year in those three things, then I think that we will start to see God just doing something very different here that we have not seen in a few years, as far as us being able to have an impact in our community in a way that we have not before in a while. And so, if there is a bomb to drop, it's not a bomb. It is, okay, what are you asking of us then? Right? It is very important, first of all, you saw this as soon as you came in the door. We need to know two things from everybody. Are you in a small group, and are you serving somewhere? Because, again, you would think, well, a really organized church would already have all of that. They would know who all the small group leaders are and who everybody's in that small group, and there'd be these lists of all the people who are on the leadership team, and we could just go beep, 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 beep. Oh, yeah, there's the answer. Yeah, okay, sure. So, but in this church, every now and then, because our systems are not great, we need to just kind of make sure that we've got all of the information as we are trying to establish and build and generate systems that can kind of help us with that. And so we need to know this information on the front end. And even still with all of that, if you are in a small group, you know who's in your small group, and you know who's theoretically in your small group that you don't see very much. And so we need to have more of an attitude, like we'll just call this protecting the exit door. That if I am a well-connected person here, I'm in a serving team, I'm in a small group, then I have a group of people that God has put in my orbit. And we all need to feel a measure of responsibility for all of those people. That I just want to be aware of, hey, there's some people, I haven't seen them in a bit. I wonder how they're doing. And I want us to feel a lot more shared ownership of that. So, all that to say, if you had to put no on either one of those things, let's figure out what it's going to take to be yes, and then take some kind of shared responsibility in these small groups and serving teams for just maintaining care and connection with all the people that God has put in your orbit. Sunday morning, again, we are doing our very best, and I think we do a great job from ages babies all the way up to people in here of creating age-appropriate, relevant experiences that can help people of all ages grow. And I think what I want to ask of you is you try, as we're trying to do what we need to do, I'm going to ask you to come here, for lack of a better word, I'm going to ask you to come here on Sunday just a little bit more fired up about it. Just a little bit more of like, man, it's really cool that we get to do this again. That I'm going to get to see people, that I'm going to get to worship, I'm going to get to learn, and I'm going to have an opportunity today, more than likely, to connect with someone who is not a part of our community yet. I come here energized, and I come here purposefully. That as me trying to break out of this Sunday is just something you do because it happens every 7 days, to we have a real intentionality in the way that we preach, in the way that we do worship, in the way that we greet. We have been creating and developing some systems over the last several months to try to make sure that we are always outward focused, visitor friendly, new person friendly, lost person friendly. And we need you to join us in that. And a lot of that has to do with the attitude that you come when you get here, the attitude you bring when you get here. Am I anticipating God's going to do something in me today? Am I anticipating God is going to do something through me today? If you come with that expectation, you will not be disappointed. If you come without that expectation, again, you won't be disappointed there either. What you think will happen more times or not will happen. If you come here expecting it just to be, I know these songs already and Charlie's going to say something I've already heard before. Yeah, sure. And I'm going to sit next to the same people? Yeah. But if you come here with the eyes, I bet there's somebody here that really needs me to kind of reach out to them. And I'm going to get to have a moment in worship with God where he's going to connect and speak to me in a way that he hasn't before. And even if I hear a same story or a same passage that maybe I heard 12 years ago, God's going to have a new, refreshing take on that for me that is going to change me. I'm expecting come here to be changed. And I'm expecting to come here to be used by God. You come with that expectation, it will be met. I understand that for a lot of us that are at the 9 o'clock service, that feels early. And I understand for those of us who have more kids than sense, that just getting here sometimes is a challenge, right? And the fact that you just made it, like you should get all the points. I get that. And even those of you who have moved past having more kids than sense, and the kids have moved on, there's still just a sense. Monday through Saturday sometimes can hurt you. And it is an achievement to be there on Sunday. And on those Sundays, let us be the one that comes to you. But work on having a heart and an attitude that says, I come here expecting something. Because whether you recognize it or not, we feed on the energy that's there. The worship team knows if you're into it or not. I know if you're paying attention or not. Sometimes I drop what I think is a 10 out of 10 money hilarious line, and you look at me like, did he just say something or not? And I'm like, there's been times I'm up here and we're like, well, if you're not paying attention, why am I here? I just go get a snack, right? And so there's a give and take. But again, I recognize on my own part, sometimes I come here a little disheveled myself, and you're feeding off of that. Sometimes Monday through Sunday kicks me, and I need you, right? But we make a joint commitment together that we're going to come here with an energy and an intentionality that is going to have a multiplying impact. Part of that, again, everyone here is a connector. I want the same thing to happen every Sunday that happened this last Sunday. By the time a visitor makes it to me there in the back, they have already met so many of you. And that you just come here with the intent of, I am going to look to find new people. Of course, we have systems and people in place that it is their specific serving job to do that. And when a staff person does it, a new person, that's great. The guy with the mic on his ear, he came and talked to me. That's something. Somebody with a lanyard comes, oh, they're good. They've got lanyard people who will come and talk to me. When a random person is intentionally also doing the same thing, next thing I know, I've got people in the back who just can't stop talking about what a friendly church this is. We all come with that expectation. I want to continue to say this again. There are some of you who are looking around right now that if this was church on Sunday morning, I would introduce myself to them because I think they might be a visitor. Okay? That's fine. I would rather 100 different times on a Sunday there be an awkward conversation where I was like, hey, my name's Charlie. Are you new here? It's like, no, I've been going here longer than you. I would rather that happen 100 times on a Sunday and two people have to make an awkward little, than for one person to be sitting over here by themselves and no one's like, I don't know if he's new or not. I don't usually come to the service. I don't usually sit over here. Right? We can't have that. Here's a big one. There was a time when it was just a regular thing beyond just things like what the backpacks that we do, where outward service projects were just what we did. We were known to be a church that was just out in our community doing things. We have and continue to maintain one of the most significant food banks in all of Fayetteville. It's our little food pantry. One of the most significantly well-known, stocked by people who don't go to church here. That continues to be great. There's still some things that we're doing that I think that are really good. But we have got to get to a point to where it is just more a part of our natural rhythm as a church that we are out in our community bringing Jesus to people with good works. And so what I need is people who are, one, passionate about that, and two, systems thinkers, planners, project manager types who can say, I can take the initiative for that. My head and my brain is so much here on Sunday and kind of helping develop these systems and leading teams that I can't. And we have a very limited staff. Even if we have, 8 different people on staff, a lot of them don't have very many hours. And the hours they have, just the job responsibilities they have, there's not a staff, I'm just going to say this, there's not a staff solution to this. There is an incredible volunteer team solution to this. And so any interest that you have in that needs to happen. And I believe that is both at a local level and an international level. And so if there's one or both of those that you have some interest in, please just let me or any staff person know, because we've got to build these teams. We got to build them 6 months ago. But we're here where we are right now. We're going to build them now. Build these teams where we can really be known in our community as a deeply outward-focused church. And that means more than visitor-friendly on a Sunday. Giving. Can I just say that and then we just kind of go? Giving, right? It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things that a church of our size, with the demographic that we have, should be doing better financially than what it is. It just should be. The average, according to most recent surveys, the average person gives about 2.8%, which is well short of a tithe to their church. And again, I know that there are a lot of reasons for that, just historical in your own heart. There's just, financial struggles that you may be having. But there is no doubt, as we think about what the future holds for us, as far as being able to put together a full staff team to be able to do all the things that we wish staff could do. As we think about, and I'll talk about this here in a second, as we think about what a future facilities situation for us would look like, money is just a significant engine of that. It just is. There have been plenty of times, and there's plenty of people who lead churches, people who are support raisers for different missions organizations that have spent a lot of time thinking, I wish there was some way to do this without there having to always be appeals for money. By and large, the best-hearted people out there wish that they didn't have to make appeals for money. But the reality of it is, to do the things that we need to do and to build towards the future that we want to have, we need to be operating at a different level. We have, for 15 years, been one of the leanest, most efficient organizations I have ever been a part of, as far as what we are able to accomplish with the staff team that we have and the resources that we have. And these are skills that are going to benefit us for 15 and then 50 years to come. But as we think about building towards what we wish we could do, the number of times, it would just be really great that if every idea and every vision and every mission and every staff need that was asked for, we could just start saying yes more. And we could start building towards the future that we know that God wants us to have. And so I don't have anybody in particular in mind. I'm not trying to call out anyone specifically. Sometimes people can their own dysfunction in their brain can start to think that somehow I'm saying this and this didn't have to be said in the large group. I could have just sent a couple of memos to. It's not like that. I have access to giving data when I want it, but 99% of the time I just don't look at it because it's not useful or beneficial for me. And so I don't really know the answers to. I don't know. The only thing I know is the ultimate end result, which is a church our size and our demographic should be doing a little bit better financially than this. And sometimes, and I know this to be true, I know that money chases vision. And so I want to do a better job, and we want to do a better job as a staff and as a congregation of really just kind of putting a forward-focused vision out there into our church and ultimately into our community. And I know that money will follow that, but I just want to go ahead and just kind of plant the seed that in order for us to get from where we have been to where we need to go, the numbers that you see, those are real numbers. The fact that sometimes, around certain seasons, the negative number can get really big and then it comes back up. The fact that it's still a real negative number. And if it doesn't improve by the end of the fiscal year, we're going to have some real challenges. Those are real numbers. And I want to strike a balance between helping you understand that those are real numbers, that we have real needs, and at the same time not feel like this is something that we're having to talk about a lot. So it's something that I struggle with, just as far as, but it's not unique to me. It's just a very challenging thing, kind of walking that line between upfront, clear communication about what the needs are, but not making sure anybody feels pestered by it. And so I just put that out there. We have got one of the most challenging kind of forward-facing budgets this year that we've had, as far as what we need to raise to be able to do everything that we say that we're going to do. And one of two things is going to have to be true this year. We are either going to have to internally figure out ways to kind of just be more intentional with our spiritual discipline of giving, or I'm going to have to spend more time than I wish I would have to just in my day-to-day job being a fundraiser. And it's not that I am unwilling to do that. I am willing to do that. I'm willing to think creatively about ways and just give a lot of mental energy to that to make sure that all of the things that we need to do can happen. But the more that I am free and our leadership is free from really that having to be a primary to-do list all the time, and we can be focused more on the specifics of the things down here that God has called us to, the better off we're going to be. And so I just put it out there. I put it out to you in what we talk about. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's also for real. Somewhere right here, with truth and love, this has continued to be something that has been a challenge off and on for a significant portion of our time here. Lastly, and I put it last on purpose, not because it's the most important one, but because it's a hope that I have. It's a prayer that I have. A church like ours should have college students. It just should. We're too young. We're too cool. We're too fun. We're too close to the campus. We are what a significant portion of that campus needs. And we are well positioned to do it. And so I have some ideas and I have some plans. The things I've talked about here, some of these things I have plans for. This is just an idea. I have an idea about I want God to do that again. Even if we can't compete with fellowship students, we can't compete with C3 at Cross Church, even if we can't compete with, I'm not trying to compete with that. Oh, wow, did you know that between those two, they have 1,000 college students coming every Sunday? They have 15, I don't know what the number is. Let's say it's 2,000. Great. That just means that there are only 20,000 students left. Right? And so if, again, I have no plan, and if you came to me and told me you were interested in it, I wouldn't have anything for you to do. But if you tell me that you're interested and you want to help, let's develop a plan and try to figure out what are some, if we don't have the financial resources, some people resources we can put towards that. I believe a church like ours in this community, if we're going to reach our community, and 20% of our community are college-age students, and we are a church very specifically made for that, that needs to be a part of what we do. So most of you came here because you wanted me to give a building update. We technically have 4 years left on this lease. 1 more year and then a 3-year extension that our landlord is going to be really, really mad about when next spring we file all the paperwork to do the 3-year extension. He's already told us he wished that we weren't going to do that, and he's already said he wished that we would leave. And so he's not being any nicer than he's ever been, but there's nothing that he can do about us for the next 4 years. And where we stand right here, and we've got 4 years to whatever this is. What this is could be any number of things. There's any number of things that it could be. This guy could just give up in some way and be like, okay, I've been wrong apparently about how much interest there is in this building. Shout out to Matt Shearschmidt for switching the signs around to put ours closer to the road. He's going to hate that. I apologize. I both praise him and apologize for mentioning him by name. And so who knows what's going to happen? I know that there is at least one staff member that we have that is currently, through prayer and generalized optimism, believing that he can manifest the fact that we are going to take over this building within the next 4 years. And I have left him fully to that. If you want to be the minister of optimism and manifestation, you can do that. And I'm going to work with other teams for other potential outcomes, and I will apologize to you when the time comes when things manifest the way that you were. We are actively looking. If we were going to move somewhere and look for different sorts of property or building, or probably a little northwest of where we are, I think there's many people in our church on any particular given Sunday who are more in the harbor area than they certainly are in South Fayetteville. And so I feel like that we could move towards the Johnson exit or even the Don Tyson exit, and still, I think that probably is more the epicenter of kind of a little scatter chart on the little map out there on the board. Put a little pin. Don't do it. But put a little pin about where you live. I think we'd be surprised. Probably the epicenter of our church is probably northwest of here. So that's kind of what we're doing. One of the ideas that we have out there is that we believe. Maybe I think it would be very difficult for us to raise $8 million, right? All right? But I believe that there are enough people that we have connections with that believe in what we're doing that would invest $8 million where we could maybe recruit our own friendly landlord or landlord team or something like that. I think there are a lot of creative options out there. We have come across some options, and we know that there are options available out there. It happens all the time where people are willing to donate land, and there's people who would be willing to do all sorts of things. There's any number of ways that God could resolve this. But we're here. We've got 4 years to here, and then there's something up here that God has that he is currently, I believe, kind of keeping secret, private. And I feel 4 years is plenty of time. I feel just kind of in my own heart a little anxiety about what this might be. which is when I like to spend time with the minister of manifestation. It's encouraging to me. I feel some anxiety about it. But the thing that I do know and understand is that what God has called us to is to be more outwardly focused in who we are right now. There will come a time, a year from now, 2 years from now, who knows, where we're going to have to figure some things out. And for a season, we're going to have to be facilities focused. I don't want that to have to come sooner than what it is. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about facilities when really all of these options that are available up here, they become easier and more clear the more committed we are to the vision, the more people that are a part of our community, and the more committed we are to community service and giving in order to build this community. So I'm not saying that it is a distraction. I'm just saying that it is not necessarily today's issue. One of the things that we are going to do, you should be aware of this, is that we are going to, what is my office back there, we are going to eliminate that. We're going to take out those walls. And that bottom floor there, apart from where the administrative office is, all of that bottom floor is now going to be available as a youth large group teaching room. And we're going to move the pool table, all that. The fun will all be upstairs, so we're expanding the space. How many people did you say were upstairs in that little room that's about the size of this stage? 40. Okay, that's a lot of people in a really small space. And so we are working to increase the space for the youth group. And so once we kind of get all of the logistics of that nailed down, there'll be a small amount of money that we'll need to raise for that. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind. Or you may be like, I don't care how much it is. My kids are 1, 2, 3 of that 40, and I'll do that right now. You just tell me the number, I'll do it right now, and I'll just make up a big number and we'll stockpile the rest. There's some other things that we've talked about as far as some logistical things that we could do back here with Grove Kids to kind of maximize some space, to kind of reimagine some space, and those things were at least initially a little bit more expensive maybe than I thought that they would be. And so we're currently kind of having some discussions about whether or not a remodel for Grove Kids for the time that we have left in this building is a good investment or not. Like, what's the line there? And is that what we would want to raise money on? There's just still some talk about that. And so right now, giving our youth way more space than what they have is a must do. And so we're gonna be starting on that fairly soon with more details of that to come. And there may come a point, too, in the near future where I come back to you and say, hey, JK, we got to do some things back here because especially for some of our older elementary kids, there's just the space isn't well designed for them. And so we want to do a better job of well designing it, but continuing to do the thing where we are maximizing and being efficient with the money that we do have. And so just want to kind of just put those things out there to you so that you can be kept in the loop on that. But we're pretty far down the road on this. We're still in the idea, thinking it through, vision spot back here. So again, if offline you want to talk to me some about that, I would love to hear it. But in the meantime, no, it was not bad. I was like an hour and 15 minutes and then 15 for question. If you have any questions, anything, there may be some questions you could ask and be like, I'll talk to you about that after. I mean, I'm not mad about any question, but if you have a question that you think is good for this, something you want to share or talk about, that'd be great. Sweet Leslie, it's her birthday today. I'll tell her I told you. She just texted me, let me know how it went. I'm like, bro, we're still going. Got my engine going. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say for the people that don't know me, my husband passed away and I got moved here by a most beautiful church, most welcoming church I have ever been in. I love it.
Thank you, Betty. We love having you here. The only person who's you got any negative things about you being here is people who are in charge of the live stream, because you were the queen of our live stream for so long. But we are definitely more glad that you are here with us now than being online live. We're so glad that you're here. Thank you for sharing that.
Anna a hug in the morning. I saw that was on the video. I'm sorry.
What was on the? No, you should give Anna a hug every week.
I do right there and I'm on video.
That's great. That's great. I mean, if we want, we could just position that camera and just kind of move it, because that's where you sit, right? Oh, okay. We got lots of cameras. We'll find you. Well, appreciate you guys a ton. And if you want to come up and you have any questions, any things you want to just talk about in smaller settings, we can. Or if you want to reach out to me and us have lunch or breakfast, we can sit at a Chick-fil-A and we can talk about what we think this family, what their relationships to each other are, and we can do that. We can do that together. I can show you what that's like in real life. We can get together and talk privately if you'd like, or you can ask me questions. I'll be here for a little bit. Anyway, very thankful that you came, that you showed kind of this depth and commitment. If you did not fill out one of those cards, encourage you to do that on your way out. And we'll see you on Sunday significantly more fired up than any of us would be on a regular Sunday.
Who sent us his son?